Hello friends. Have you ever met someone so bursting with energy, so wild with curiosity, and so maddeningly untamed that they seemed to gallop through life like a comet on horseback? If so, you might have encountered the magnificent and mysterious being known as the Sagittarius, born in the year of the horse. This isn't just a person. It's a whirlwind in human form. A philosophical firecracker with a passport full of stamps, a head full of dreams, and a heart that's always halfway to the next adventure. But behind all that free spirit and charm lies a complex character, someone torn between freedom and connection, between desire and discipline, between the fire of Sagittarius and the horsepower of the Chinese Zodiac. So who really is the Sagittarius horse? Let's break them down by heart, soul, and ambition, every messy, beautiful contradiction. Love, the heart that rides free. To understand how the Sagittarius born in the year of the horse experiences love is to witness a force that is as beautiful as it is untamable. Love for this individual is not a passive emotion, it's a movement, a rhythm, a constant dance between wanting to belong and needing to break free. They're born under two symbols that represent motion and energy: Sagittarius, the archer who aims toward new horizons, and the horse, forever galloping toward the next open field. Combine them, and you get someone who sees love not as a destination, but as a breathtaking, unpredictable journey. When they fall at full speed. There's no caution, no half-hearted flutter. They can go from casual banter to soul-bearing confessions within hours, seducing with honesty, a wicked sense of humor, and eyes that seem to say, "I've lived 1,000 lives, and I want to write the next one with you." But their affection is never routine. Their love style is erratic but deeply sincere, an emotional wildfire with a conscience. They are turned on by connection that feels electric, fast-paced conversations, new adventures, and shared discoveries. For the Sagittarius horse, emotional stimulation is just as important as physical attraction. They despise predictability. Predictability, to them, feels like emotional suffocation. They're most compatible with people who understand that intimacy doesn't mean ownership, and closeness doesn't mean confinement. Partners who thrive with them are often independent, curious, and secure in themselves. Those who don't flinch when their Sag horse disappears for a weekend hike or suddenly signs up for a 3-week photography course in Iceland. Jealousy, guilt-tripping, or excessive emotional neediness are deal-breakers. These tactics don't bind them closer, they only send them running faster. But here's the paradox that makes their love so compelling. Beneath all that freedom-loving bravado is someone who craves a deep, unshakable bond. Yes, they might avoid commitment early on. Yes, they may disappear mid-relationship to find themselves again. But this is not out of cruelty, it's because their soul requires growth, and if a relationship begins to feel like a wall instead of a window, they simply can't breathe inside it. Once they've matured emotionally, and if they've found someone who grows with them, they can become astonishingly devoted lovers. They bring laughter into every room, passion into every kiss, and dreams into every conversation. Their romantic loyalty isn't traditional, it's not always about routines and rituals. It's about emotional presence, shared purpose, and a sense of adventure together. They don't fall for appearances, they fall for potential. For depth. For minds that can travel as fast and far as theirs. Even after years together, they need to feel like there's still more to discover about you, and more to discover with you. In relationships, the Sagittarius horse often plays the role of inspirer, instigator, and mirror. They challenge their partners to live bigger, think freer, and love deeper. They will never be the partner who texts every hour or clings in public. But they will be the one who books a surprise trip for your birthday, encourages your wildest goals, and makes you feel limitless. Their romantic gestures are rarely textbook, but they are unforgettable. A spontaneous motorcycle ride at midnight. A long letter tucked into your backpack before a solo trip. A heated debate that ends in laughter, not resentment. They might test your patience, disappear into books or cities, and forget an anniversary, but they will never let love go stale. They are intensely loyal when they've chosen you, not because society says so, but because their soul knows you're their match. And when that bond forms, it's more than just a relationship. It becomes a voyage, two wild hearts choosing, day after day, to ride together through life's chaos. The Sagittarius horse is, at their romantic best, the lover who expands your world. They love with their entire being, mind, body, and spirit. And though their road to commitment may be winding, once they've truly arrived, their love is nothing short of epic. Think of poetry written in foreign cafes, kisses under stars in unfamiliar skies, and arguments that somehow lead to even stronger trust. Their love is the story you'll tell for the rest of your life. So if you're lucky enough to be loved by one, remember this: never try to own them. Instead, run with them. Match their pace. Meet them where the world feels infinite. Love them like the wild, beautiful creature they are, not in spite of their freedom, but because of it. Sex, the adventure playground. For the Sagittarius born in the year of the horse, sex is never just sex. It's a journey, an unfolding narrative of passion, curiosity, surprise, and above all, freedom. This is someone who doesn't view intimacy as a formula to follow but as an art to be discovered. Every touch, every look, every breath between the sheets is part of a larger emotional landscape they're always exploring. They don't just want to feel good, they want to feel alive. Routine, predictability, and obligation are the fastest ways to dim their fire. They crave sensation, variety, and the thrill of the unexpected. To them, sex is a realm where imagination and instinct collide. It's where boundaries are lovingly challenged, where laughter is just as arousing as touch, and where spontaneity rules. They're not afraid to take the lead or to follow, so long as the moment feels real. One night might be slow and sensual, the next filled with wild energy and playful experimentation. Their appetite is matched only by their creativity. They're the type to whisper a fantasy in your ear, improvise an entire roleplay scene, or suggest making love under the stars just because it feels right. And they are endlessly curious. Sagittarius horse lovers want to know what turns you on, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. They're deeply engaged with the psychology of pleasure. That means asking questions others are too shy to raise. What excites you? What scares you? What fantasy have you never dared to speak aloud? With them, nothing is taboo unless it's coercive. They champion consent, but they also celebrate discovery. They'll try anything once, maybe twice just to be sure. That includes exotic settings, spontaneous encounters, and sensory play that delights the mind as much as the body. Their flirtation starts long before the bedroom. It begins with a witty joke, an intense gaze, a debate about art or politics that ends with lingering eye contact. They seduce through presence and intellect, building tension like a storyteller building to a perfect twist. And just when you think you've figured them out, they'll surprise you again, with a sudden kiss, a bold suggestion, or a completely unexpected layer of emotional vulnerability. But for all their mischief and fire, there's more than just surface heat. When a Sagittarius horse feels truly seen, the bedroom becomes sacred ground. It's not just about physical release anymore, it's about trust, transcendence, and soulful connection. They want their lovers to feel free in bed, free to express, to ask, to laugh, to be imperfect. Judgment has no place here. Authenticity is the real aphrodisiac. Emotionally connected sex with a Sagittarius horse can feel like a different dimension. Time bends. The world fades. It's breathless, wordless, and somehow transformative. Their dual zodiac nature, half philosopher, half stallion, comes alive in these moments. The horse gives endurance, rhythm, and an innate understanding of physicality. The Sagittarius contributes passion, curiosity, and depth. Together, they create a sexual presence that is magnetic, dynamic, and utterly unforgettable. And here's what many don't realize: this person isn't trying to impress or perform. Their eroticism is simply who they are. They don't fake, they don't force. When they're in it, they're all in, mind, body, and spirit. They don't measure success by climax alone, but by connection. By how present you both felt. By how free you were to be. They also thrive when sex is layered with meaning. A sudden encounter in a foreign hotel room? Yes. A slow, vulnerable night after an emotional breakthrough? Also yes. Sex, for them, mirrors life. It should be unpredictable, playful, deep, sometimes chaotic, but always honest. If it feels performative, empty, or mechanical, they'll quietly check out. But if it feels like a mutual creation, something alive and evolving, they'll show up over and over again, bringing new colors every time. So if you find yourself in the arms of a Sagittarius horse, don't come with a script. Come with a spirit of play, an open heart, and a willingness to be surprised. Because with them, the physical becomes emotional, the emotional becomes spiritual, and the spiritual becomes wildly physical all over again. Every encounter is a chapter, a discovery, a memory worth writing down. They don't just make love, they make moments. And if you can match their fire, they'll make magic. Marriage. Wild hearts do settle sometimes. For the Sagittarius born in the year of the horse, the idea of marriage isn't a destination, it's a detour they might take if the road ahead still feels wide open. Traditional vows, routine anniversaries, and domestic predictability? That's not their dream scenario. What they crave is a lifelong adventure partner. Someone who looks at marriage not as the end of the freedom, but the beginning of a bigger, bolder freedom shared between two souls. For this wild spirit, marriage must feel like the open sky, not a cage, not a contract, but a mutual voyage powered by trust, curiosity, and autonomy. They don't seek security in the way others do. Security, for them, isn't about property, rings, or labels. It's about knowing they can be fully themselves in your presence. That they can speak their wildest thoughts, share their most absurd ideas, and follow their inner compass without judgment or leash. When they sense that level of acceptance, something beautiful happens. They begin to choose to stay. Not out of obligation, but out of deep respect. They settle not because they have to, but because someone finally feels like home without walls. These are not people who wake up one day and say, I guess it's time to get married. They are more likely to question the institution entirely. In fact, they might resist marriage for years, even if they've been committed emotionally. The Sagittarius horse needs to feel that marriage is earned, that it's a natural extension of a deep connection rather than a social checkpoint. Their wedding, if it happens, probably won't be cookie-cutter. Expect something unconventional. A ceremony on a cliffside, handwritten vows under the stars, or a spontaneous elopement in a country they've only just discovered. Inside a marriage, this person brings life. They're animated, humorous, philosophical, and always striving for growth. They'll push you to try new things, ask uncomfortable questions, and evolve constantly. You'll take road trips without a map. You'll dance in the kitchen at midnight. You'll argue passionately and make up like poets. This is not a partner who lets the relationship go stale. They feed it with novelty, honesty, and effort, often in unexpected ways. But, and this is crucial, marriage with a Sagittarius horse must evolve. If the relationship gets stagnant, if routines replace revelation, if the sense of wonder fades, they may emotionally withdraw. Their energy thrives on expansion. The two of you must keep learning about each other, trying new experiences, and challenging your personal and shared limits. The marriage isn't just about us to them, it's about what we're becoming together. That's the real magic. They're also intensely loyal, once they choose you. Before that point, they might seem inconsistent, even elusive. But when they finally see that you're someone who doesn't just accept their freedom but celebrates it, they'll offer a depth of devotion that's incredibly rare. They'll become your cheerleader, your co-pilot, your midnight philosopher. And when you hit life's inevitable rough patches, they'll be the one saying, let's figure this out together, instead of running away. That said, honesty is non-negotiable. If you lie, manipulate, or try to control them, they'll vanish before you even realize they were packing. This dual sign also carries a secret softness that few ever see. Despite their independence, there's a deep desire to be known fully, to be held emotionally, and to feel safe being vulnerable. In a long-term bond, they blossom when they don't have to put on a show. When they can be messy, uncertain, even scared, and still be loved. They may never say the words, I need you, outright, but their commitment reveals it. They'll remember your quirks. They'll surprise you with your favorite snack after a long day. They'll plan a future not just around their dreams, but yours too. And yes, there will be bumps. Their restlessness doesn't vanish with a wedding band. There may be times they crave more space than usual. Times they book solo trips or retreat inward to reset. This isn't rejection, it's recalibration. They're simply recharging the parts of themselves that make them such a dynamic partner in the first place. The key is to give space without withdrawing love. Let them fly without fear, and they'll always come back with new stories and deeper appreciation. In truth, their vision of marriage is radical in its authenticity. They don't just want happily ever after, they want honestly ever evolving. They want to cry with you in airports and laugh with you in parking lots. They want to argue without malice and make love without routine. They want to look at you in 20 years and say, we never stopped choosing this. Marrying a Sagittarius horse means signing up for a life of movement, meaning, and magic. It's not the smoothest ride. But if you have the courage to grow beside them, to explore the infinite versions of who you both can be, then the reward is extraordinary. You'll have a love that isn't trapped in one definition. A marriage that breathes. A bond that can weather distance, disruption, and time, because it was never about perfection. It was always about freedom with devotion. And that's the kind of marriage that doesn't just survive, it soars. Friendship. The flame that lights up a crowd. Friendship with a Sagittarius born in the year of the horse is not for the faint of heart, it's for the bold, the curious, the ones who crave laughter wrapped in wisdom and unpredictability dressed as loyalty. These individuals don't do casual connections. Even their most laid-back friendships are fueled by intensity, spontaneity, and emotional resonance. If you're looking for a quiet, low-energy pal to meet at the same coffee shop every week, keep walking. But if you're looking for someone who'll invite you to a sunrise meditation on a mountain one day and challenge your beliefs about fate and freedom over cocktails the next, this is your ride or die. They are natural connectors, social glue, the friend in the room who makes everyone feel a little more alive just by showing up. Their energy is infectious, magnetic, unpredictable, but never fake. A Sagittarius horse doesn't show up just to people please. They show up because they want to. And when they do, they bring stories, laughter, chaos, curiosity, and the kind of presence that turns any gathering into a memory. They're the friend who always finds the perfect playlist, the weirdest late-night diner, or the most random, profound question that keeps the group talking for hours. But make no mistake, beneath the charm is substance. These people crave deep friendships with thinkers, seekers, misfits, and creatives. They're drawn to authenticity like bees to nectar. If you're vulnerable, real, and a little weird, you're in. If you're fake, controlling, or drama-prone, they're out, and they won't explain twice. Their loyalty is fierce, but conditional. They expect honesty, they need respect, and they value freedom like oxygen. Friendship, to them, is not about constant check-ins or emotional babysitting. It's about shared evolution. If you grow apart, they'll love you from a distance, but they won't chase what's no longer aligned. They're excellent at showing up when it counts. Need help moving? They'll bring pizza and playlist curation. Just got dumped? They'll talk you through it at 3 a.m. while researching flights to Bali, just in case you need a breakup trip. They bring levity to your darkness, momentum to your stagnation. And yes, they'll drag you out of your rut, but with joy. They don't just say, cheer up. They say, let's go try goat yoga, then make pancakes at midnight. And somehow, that's exactly what you need. Their friend group is often a collage of eccentric brilliance. Artists, philosophers, musicians, startup founders, travelers, introverts with deep eyes, extroverts with loud laughs. They surround themselves with people who bring color, chaos, and intelligence into the room. They hate cliques, despise small talk, and get bored easily, so their ideal friends are shapeshifters too. People who aren't afraid to take risks, reinvent themselves, or dive deep into weird, wonderful conversations that others avoid. One of their most underrated friendship traits? Encouragement. They are natural uplifters. If you tell them about a wild dream, writing a book, opening a food truck, moving to another country, they won't laugh. They'll ask, when do we start? And if you start doubting yourself, they'll remind you exactly who you are, loudly, humorously, and with absolute conviction. They believe in you, often more than you believe in yourself. But don't expect them to be available 24/7. These are not clingy companions. They need space, solitude, and the occasional vanishing act to recharge their spirit. That doesn't mean they've ghosted you, it means they trust the friendship enough to breathe. To a Sagittarius horse, real friends don't need constant proof. Real friends understand that love can be loud or quiet, and that distance doesn't mean disconnection. That said, betray them once, especially with dishonesty or manipulation, and it's game over. They don't do grudges, but they also don't do second chances easily. Their trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. And if they sense someone is leeching their energy, riding their coattails, or hiding behind a mask, they'll be out of your life faster than a horse at the starting gate. No warning, no drama, just a clean cut. Their time is too precious, and their spirit too wild, to be weighed down by toxicity. Still, when you're on their wavelength, there's no friend like them. They'll challenge you, cheer for you, and occasionally call you at 2 a.m. with an idea that sounds insane, but ends up being unforgettable. They're the kind of friend who leaves notes in your luggage, who sends you a song that reminds them of your soul, who pushes you toward your better self, sometimes without even realizing it. To be friends with a Sagittarius horse is to accept that life is meant to be felt fully. It means chasing sunrise road trips, laughing until you can't breathe, crying over big truths, and always, always growing. You won't always know where the journey is headed, but you'll know you're never alone on the ride. Because once they choose you, you're not just part of their social life. You're part of their story. And their stories are the kind you never forget. Business, born to blaze trails. In the world of business, the Sagittarius born in the year of the horse is not here to play it safe, they're here to redefine the game. These individuals are walking sparks of innovation. They don't just think outside the box, they set the box on fire, build a rocket from the ashes, and launch themselves into the unknown. Traditional corporate settings feel like creative prisons to them. Punching a clock? Following orders? Climbing the ladder rung by rung while wearing neutral tones? That's their personal nightmare. These are the entrepreneurs of tomorrow, the bold disruptors of today, and the ones most likely to reinvent an entire industry on a flight between continents. Their minds are wired for possibility. Where others see barriers, they see blank pages. Where others want to optimize, they want to revolutionize. And they have the sheer guts to try it. Sagittarius gives them philosophical depth and visionary thinking, while the horse infuses them with relentless energy and a love for speed. They act on instinct, and more often than not, that instinct is right. They know how to read a room, feel a market trend before it hits, and pivot at lightning speed. If you're still doing a SWOT analysis, they're already 2 steps into launching their next big idea. That said, their business brilliance doesn't lie in paperwork or protocol. Ask them to create a 5-year operations plan, and they'll yawn by the second paragraph. But give them a chance to pitch a wild concept, spark a movement, or bring an idea to life from thin air. They're in their element. They thrive in chaos, change, and the unknown. This makes them excellent at starting projects, energizing teams, and creating momentum, but not always finishing what they start. That's why pairing them with someone more grounded is crucial. They need a co-founder who can take their wild brainstorms and turn them into sustainable systems. Charisma is their currency. Whether they're selling an app, a philosophy, a brand, or themselves, they do it with flair, humor, and a touch of irreverence. People buy from them because they believe them. They speak with passion, move with purpose, and market with intuition. They know how to read trends, yes, but more importantly, they know how to create them. They're often early adopters or even originators of whatever becomes the next big thing. Their LinkedIn might be chaotic. Their office might be a hammock in Bali. But their ideas? Always ahead of the curve. They're not afraid of risk, sometimes to their own detriment. Boredom is their greatest enemy, and they'll often abandon a perfectly good idea because it no longer excites them. That's their shadow side in business. The inability to stick with the slow, unsexy parts of success. When the adrenaline fades, they can start chasing the next big rush, leaving half-finished ventures behind. That's why discipline doesn't come naturally to them, it has to be consciously cultivated. They need habits, accountability systems, or a partner who can keep the business grounded when their attention wanders to the next bright idea. Still, when they stay engaged, truly engaged, they are unstoppable. They build brands that feel alive, companies that disrupt industries, and platforms that empower others. Their businesses often reflect their personal values: freedom, authenticity, exploration, and truth. They gravitate toward work that lets them travel, meet fascinating people, challenge norms, and express themselves fully. You'll rarely find them stuck in one city, one role, or one identity. They are the quintessential digital nomads, global freelancers, startup junkies, and keynote speakers. They could be hosting a retreat in Costa Rica, launching a podcast in Lisbon, or writing a business memoir from a rooftop in Tokyo. Their leadership style is unconventional but inspiring. They don't micromanage, they magnetize. They attract talent through their energy, not their title. They lead by vision, not control. Their teams tend to be loose, diverse, and united more by shared passion than by rigid structure. They prefer open brainstorming sessions to boardroom meetings. They listen, but they move fast. They don't need validation, they need momentum. And once they get it, there's almost no stopping them. Money, for them, is freedom, not status. They want wealth to fund experiences, not just bank accounts. To them, the true ROI isn't just revenue, it's how alive they feel doing what they do. This means they'll walk away from high-paying roles if they feel creatively suffocated. They'll pass on investments that lack purpose. And they'll build empires, not for ego, but for the thrill of building something meaningful on their own terms. When the Sagittarius horse channels their fire into focused creation, surrounds themselves with the right collaborators, and learns to honor both speed and sustainability, they can change industries. They don't just dream about revolutionizing business, they do it. Not someday, today, fast. And for anyone lucky enough to work with them, just know, the ride will be intense, unpredictable, and wildly exhilarating. But if you can hold on, you'll be part of something that doesn't just chase profit. You'll be part of something that moves the world forward. Dark side, the untamable storm. For all their brilliance, magnetism, and creative fire, Sagittarius horse individuals carry a storm within, a raw, often misunderstood energy that can wreak havoc in their lives and the lives of those who love or work with them. These people are made of motion, possibility, and rebellion. But when that force isn't grounded, it doesn't evolve into freedom, it implodes into chaos. Their dark side isn't just about flaws, it's about what happens when brilliance goes untempered, when independence becomes isolation, and when the need for novelty turns into an inability to stay present. Their restlessness can border on self-destruction. The same drive that propels them to seek new horizons can also cause them to sabotage perfectly good situations simply because they start to feel confined. They burn bridges not always out of malice, but out of desperation. They tell themselves, if I stay here, I'll suffocate, even if here is a stable relationship, a promising job, or a healthy community. The moment life feels too routine, they panic. The stillness feels like death. So they run. And when they do, they often leave behind confusion, heartbreak, and scorched earth. They don't always know how to pause, how to reflect. Instead, they destroy and then ask questions, if at all, later. Overconfidence is another shadow they wrestle with. These are people who trust their instincts deeply, and often, they're right. But when that confidence crosses into arrogance, they stop listening. They bulldoze through feedback, dismiss perspectives, and operate from a belief that they know best. They might frame it as following their truth, but in reality, it's sometimes just ego dressed in spiritual clothing. They can gaslight others unintentionally, assuming disagreement equals ignorance. This trait can isolate them, especially in leadership roles or close relationships, because humility takes a back seat to the thrill of being right. Emotional avoidance is one of their most persistent challenges. For all their eloquence and passion, when emotions get too heavy, they instinctively dodge. If things get serious, especially in love, they might retreat behind humor, distraction, or distance. They ghost not to hurt, but to avoid the terrifying feeling of being truly seen. Vulnerability feels too slow, too exposed, too still. They often mistake emotional depth for emotional danger. And so, they vanish. Not always physically, but spiritually. Conversations stay surface level. Conflicts go unresolved. And intimacy suffers. The irony is, they crave deep connection, but fear it just as much. Impatience and recklessness run through their veins like rocket fuel. They hate waiting, hate bureaucracy, hate anything that drags or delays. This makes them fast movers and bold decision makers, but it also makes them prone to impulsive choices with long-term consequences. They'll change careers on a whim, move across the world for a fleeting idea, end relationships without fully processing them. Their need for speed often bypasses logic, and the damage shows up later, in broken trust, missed opportunities, or emotional fallout they hadn't anticipated. They're the kind of person who says, "I'll figure it out later," and sometimes never does. Their fear of commitment is rarely about the other person, it's about the fear of becoming someone they don't recognize. Being tied down to them doesn't just mean losing freedom. It means losing identity. And if that fear goes unchecked, they may unconsciously create drama just to test whether the bond can hold, or as an excuse to bolt. They often romanticize intensity, thinking that chaos equals passion. But chaos, left unexamined, becomes emotional warfare. And they can leave others bleeding without ever realizing they swung the sword. Idealism is both their gift and their curse. They see how life could be, how love should feel, how business might work if everyone just followed their truth. But when reality doesn't match their vision, they can spiral. Disillusionment hits them hard. They either check out or lash out. They struggle to accept flaws in people, systems, and sometimes themselves. Their pursuit of meaning is noble, but it can become self-sabotage if they're constantly rejecting the world for not being magical enough. But underneath every destructive trait is something deeply human: fear. The Sagittarius horse shadow is rooted in the terror of being trapped by boredom, expectations, mediocrity. They're afraid of wasting their potential, of being misunderstood, of living small. So they sprint, lash out, disappear, or set fire to what once mattered, anything to avoid the stillness where those fears live. Yet, paradoxically, that stillness is where their true power waits. When they stop running, not from people, but from themselves, they begin to heal. When they learn that vulnerability isn't weakness but a deeper kind of bravery, they begin to connect. And when they realize that stillness isn't stagnation but an invitation to align their inner fire with clarity, they become unstoppable. They can still move fast, but with purpose. Still dream big, but with roots. Still love wildly, but without fear of being caged. The untamable storm within them doesn't have to destroy. It can be harnessed, directed, used to build instead of burn. When they integrate their light and shadow, the Sagittarius horse becomes more than just a visionary rebel. They become a force of grounded inspiration, one that not only changes their own life, but helps others see what it means to be truly free. Life purpose. The journey, not the destination. At the core of every Sagittarius born in the year of the horse lies a pulsing, relentless drive that can't be boxed in by conventional goals or static definitions of success. These are not souls built for straight lines or tidy timelines. Their life purpose is not to arrive at some endpoint with a trophy in hand and a retirement plan. They're here to move, to seek, to transform again and again. They are the living embodiment of curiosity in motion. And the moment they feel like they've arrived, they'll instinctively look for the next edge, the next mountain, the next impossible question. Freedom is their sacred compass. Not just physical freedom, the kind that lets them book a one-way flight with no plan, but intellectual and spiritual freedom, too. They need to explore what's possible not only in the world but within themselves. What are they capable of? Who are they when stripped of routine, title, or expectation? These aren't rhetorical questions for the Sagittarius horse. These are daily imperatives. Life, for them, is not about acquiring things, it's about collecting moments, truths, people, and stories that make the heart beat faster and the soul feel seen. They are naturally drawn to uncharted territory. Whether it's stepping into a remote village or diving into an unfamiliar philosophy, they are always chasing the edges of what's known. That means their careers and life paths rarely follow a straight line. Many will reinvent themselves more than once, leaving behind comfort and stability to chase growth. They may go from corporate to creative, from scientist to shaman, from traveler to teacher, and back again. To an outsider, this looks chaotic. But to the Sagittarius horse, it's evolution in real time. They're not afraid to shed skins, burn plans, or walk away from things that no longer reflect their expanding truth. Their purpose often involves sharing their journey. They're not just seekers, they're storytellers. And whether they do it through writing, speaking, mentoring, or simply living out loud, they inspire others by example. They challenge societal norms and ask, what if life could look different? And then they show you. They become walking permission slips for authenticity, courage, and reinvention. Their energy says, you don't have to follow the script. You can write your own. Better yet, you can tear the whole damn book up and start fresh, again and again. They are natural teachers, but not in the traditional sense. You won't find them behind a podium with a textbook. You'll find them leading retreats in the Andes, facilitating deep conversations at a hostel cafe, or mentoring others through spontaneous wisdom bombs. Their gift is illumination, making people feel seen and sparking internal revolutions with a single sentence. They might not always stick around to finish the lesson, but what they leave behind often plants seeds that bloom for years. One of the most beautiful things about the Sagittarius horse's life purpose is how internal it truly is. While many chase external validation, this person is fueled by meaning. They may achieve fame or wealth, but that's never the point. The real question they wake up asking is, does this still matter to me? If the answer is no, they'll pivot, even if it means starting from zero. Because for them, the soul must remain awake. And stagnation is worse than failure. They are often drawn to causes and communities that reflect this hunger for change. Social justice, human rights, environmental movements, cultural preservation, education reform, anything that questions the status quo and dares to dream bigger will speak to their sense of mission. They are rarely passive observers. If something breaks their heart or inflames their passion, they'll act. Loudly, boldly, and often, without asking permission. Relationships also tie into their purpose, but not in a conventional, find your other half, kind of way. They seek connections that mirror their inner landscape, expansive, evolving, free. Soulmates to them are not just romantic, they are collaborators, muses, challengers, fellow adventurers. They learn through love, and love through learning. Every relationship adds a new layer to their sense of self, and they leave each one wiser, more open, and often more inspired to dive deeper into their mission. But their journey isn't always smooth. The same desire for growth can leave them feeling perpetually unfulfilled, like the horizon is always out of reach. They may struggle with doubt, wondering if their constant reinvention means they're lost, instead of evolving. They may envy those who seem content with a normal life, while simultaneously knowing that path would drain the life out of them. The key for the Sagittarius horse is to stop searching for arrival, and to begin honoring movement itself as the point. They're not meant to settle. They're meant to dance. When they fully embrace that truth, something clicks. Life stops being a race and becomes a rhythm. They start seeing themselves not as unstable, but as fluid. Not inconsistent, but responsive. They learn to trust their own timing, to value presence as much as progress, and to recognize that their true legacy isn't a resume or a title, it's the impact they leave in the hearts and minds of others. The way they wake people up. The way they make others believe that life can be more. The Sagittarius horse isn't here to fit into life. They're here to stretch it. To question, to roam, to risk, to love, and to become. Over and over again. Because for them, the journey is the destination. And they wouldn't have it any other way. Final thought. Can you ride with them? To truly know a Sagittarius born in the year of the horse is to step into the eye of a vibrant storm, equal parts thrill and transformation. These are not people you observe from the sidelines. They pull you in with their fire, test your limits with their truth, and dazzle you with their vision of what life could be. You don't just meet them, you experience them. And once you do, you're never quite the same. Their presence alone demands movement, awakening, and the courage to burn away everything that's false. They are not for the faint-hearted, but they are unforgettable to the brave. Loving them, romantically, platonically, or even from a distance, is like falling into orbit around a star that refuses to stay in one galaxy. They'll light up your world with spontaneous adventures, wild ideas, unfiltered passion, and a sense of infinite possibility. They will make you question your limits. Not to tear you down, but to show you how much more is possible when you stop playing small. But don't expect them to come with instructions. They'll give you affection, but not always consistency. Honesty, but not always delicacy. And if you try to box them in, emotionally, intellectually, or physically, they will vanish before your eyes. Not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. What they need is not a handler, but a partner in freedom. Someone who sees their complexity as a gift, not a flaw. Someone who doesn't just tolerate their wild heart, but dances with it. If you can do that, if you can accept the chaos as part of the beauty, the restlessness as part of the brilliance, you'll get a companion who is fiercely loyal in their own way. They will challenge you, yes. But they will also believe in you like few others can. They'll cheer you on from the front row, hold your hand through the mess, and light a fire under your purpose when you've forgotten what you're capable of. Riding with them means letting go of expectations. It means trusting that the journey will take you where you're meant to go, even if the route is tangled, nonlinear, or upside down. It means laughing through detours, forgiving the emotional U-turns, and recognizing that behind all the momentum is someone who's not running away from you, they're running toward meaning. Their search isn't about escaping. It's about becoming. And when they let you in, it's because they see you as part of that process. Not everyone can handle the ride. Some people will try to tame them, mold them, or clip their wings, and those people will be left behind, wondering what happened. But if you're willing to evolve beside them, love them without ownership, and grow through every twist and turn, then you'll earn something few ever do: a front row seat to the kind of life that others only dream of. Because the Sagittarius horse doesn't just want to live, they want to live fully. And if you can keep up with their speed, match their honesty, and hold space for both their fire and their fear, then you'll experience a bond that's raw, radiant, and real. You'll learn that freedom and love aren't opposites, they're companions. That passion isn't always polished, but it's powerful. And that the wildest souls are often the ones who lead us home to our truest selves. So if one gallops into your life, don't try to contain them. Just saddle up, let go of the map, and hold on. Because the ride? It'll be the most beautiful kind of wild.